Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the best part number DD502. This is a set of 3/32 of an inch letter dies, and this is basically the alphabet, 3/32 of an inch size. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 3 is 27. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 3 is 27. Yeah, because I was going to say we're a little long in the number, and I think it's because of this ampersand. I believe that's an ampersand. Yeah, you have to look at it in reverse, but that's an ampersand. So that's why we are coming up a little heavy in terms of the count of letters in the alphabet. Now, when it comes to stamping keys or cylinders, you know, you can get them in 1/8 of an inch or 3/32. You know, the 3/32's the right size in my estimation. That would be the size that you're really going to want for doing this sort of work. The only thing that I don't really care for is there is no indication. Well, that's not true. That is actually, that's not true at all. Here's what I was about to say. So the indication is that there is stamping on the side of the stamp, so that when you are stamping, you can feel with the pad of your thumb, okay, what is the side that's down? Even though I would need to kind of get the tip of my thumb on there to feel it, it's clearly smooth on the other sides, so that when you're pulling a stamp down, you can rotate it in your hand without having to look at it and know that the proper letter is faced down as you stamp. You don't hit it multiple times. One time is the bottom line. Okay, 3/32 of an inch it says there, and that is how you'll know what you're dealing with on the bottom of the stamp. Okay, when you're stamping, it is really helpful, and I'm not an expert, but it does take some practice to get good at it. About 2 5/16 is the overall length. The practice comes in the concept of taking your time, because if you are stamping more than just a couple of letters or a number or whatever the case might be, you want to be sure to get that straight. And I simply find with practice and patience, you'll get pretty good at it. The overall length of the stamp we measured, about 2 5/16. This is 0.250, well, 0.249. It's 250 on the money. 1/4 inch square is what that size is. Let's switch to the screen view where we can take a look at the supporting documentation of this best equipment as it serves to support their line of small format keying. Okay, so this is the item that we're looking at, and while the image that they have here could date back to the 1950s for all I know, this is their DD502 3/32 of an inch set of letter dies. High carbon steel, number and letter dies for marking. They're just the letter dies. Best cores and keys are available in the 3/32 letter heights. Click for quick reference to combinating best cores. If you deal with best cores in terms of the actual physical combinating or pinning of the cores, this document is for you. If you're looking for a stamp set, it's not for you. Cut sheet is here, and that's just the single portion of the catalog as it applies to just this item. Letters and numbers. 503 is the number set. The product brochure is here, and it's going to go through everything service equipment related with best. DD502, so that didn't work. So we'll scroll through. Not a bad idea, because you'll see all of the service equipment. This client also bought a marking block, which is very handy as well. Key marking plate. It's very handy to have all the keys laid out for you. Number and letter and number dies. They're here as we talked about earlier. But this catalog is very handy because it will allow you to review, like I said, all of the service equipment as it pertains to supporting the substantial investment in a small format system from BEST. Okay. That marking block is also very handy because it's going to hold on to the material that you're working on. So really a good way to keep you at least with the material placed where you like it, because what happens is when you have to hold the die in your hand, at that point you're no longer securing what you're stamping. So these marking and stamping blocks are helpful in that regard. A very common thing also is when they do engraving on machines. Kaba Ilko makes them, engraving machines. They always have a tray that your key blanks are fixtured into, and this is not unlike that. It allows you to accurately stamp your material. Speaking of marking and engraving, that may be something we can assist you with if you wanted key blanks marked or engraved with your information on it. We have a tiger shark here, which I believe will do the marking for us. Now, the link to the manufacturer's page is here, and that's going to allow us to review not only all of the best products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. But then encyclopedic and reference documents are here. For instance, that quick reference to combinating best cores is here. If you wanted to start at the ground level and learn how to combinate best interchangeable core, that system training is the document that the manufacturer publishes for your use. And of course, you can search that information online as well and reviewing that material, along with actually having the equipment, the keys, the pinning kit, the cores in front of you. You can reasonably easily teach yourself how to do it. Best Access Service Manual. This is an epic document that has parts breakdown of all of the entire line. When you call BEST and ask them for the chassis from an R-function classroom lock in whatever series you're working on, in this case the 6K series, they're going to very politely ask if you've looked at the service manual. And not that they don't love your phone call, I'm sure that they do. Every time that I email support or call the factory, I get absolutely professional world-class support. But at the end of the day, they're just referring to the service manual, and it's right there. Okay. Other information is here as well. Fun fact, the Frank Best small format interchangeable core patent from 1921 is here. And while the small format core that we all know and love is a bit different than this one, than this 1921 patent, the principle, of course, is the same, where that cylinder can be removed. You'll note that they have balls here. Those are ball bearings. And it was a sign of the times, and actually well before 1921 as well, that they inserted balls in the chambers because they were dealing with inferior material science when it comes to nickel silver or the base material that key blanks and pin tumblers are made from. The ball bearings were used to substantially reduce the amount of friction on a key blank and the tumblers. In BEST, of course, this would be chamber 5 because it's tip to bow. Chamber 5 and chamber 4, because this is a 5-pin cylinder, would get 100% use, right? Where chamber 1 only sees one chamber hitting it at any one time. So right up in the front, you would certainly develop a lot more wear than you would otherwise. But as you study this, you see that it's very interesting. You create a shear line for the cylinder plug itself when your key is fully inserted. But when you pull that key out one position, you then create a shear line to remove you pull that key out one position, you then have a shear line at the cylinder pull position, where you have a shear line up at the control lug. And while that system is certainly changed, the underlying principle is certainly the same of what's been done here with bottom pins. You know, these balls are acting as the bottom pins in conjunction with a driver pin here. So that might be a 2 and that might be a 2. So that cut might be a 4. Then, of course, you have your driver pin and then your control pin. So very interesting. And I'll tell you, Frank Best certainly did not, while he apparently is most definitely credited with the removable or interchangeable core principle, he's not credited with the ball bearing. P.F. Corbin was doing that at least a quarter century before that. And you can easily find documentation referring to that. It was quite a marketing effort on P.F. Corbin's behalf. They were saying that they were the only company who offered ball bearings, very smooth, long-lasting construction, etc. Fascinating if you were to study the history of these absolute pioneers of genius when it comes to the development of cylinders that 100 years later we are using every single day, whether it be Frank Best or Walter Schlegel or countless other people that were, I forget the New York City detective's first name, Siegel, who came up with the Siegel lock, etc. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, in conclusion, this is a die set. This is the factory die set, and while the case has probably certainly changed over the years, I would imagine that this plastic case with this cover is going to be considered more durable than otherwise. 3/32 of an inch, that's the right size. I've had 1/8 of an inch, but the 3/32 is a better size. It looks more proportional with the size of actually what you're stamping. Be mindful if you're stamping interchangeable small format cores, be real careful where you're stamping that material. You don't want to stamp it on the cylinder, outer cylinder plug housing itself, the curved shape of the figure 8. You'll crush that in, and it's obviously not a flat surface, so you wouldn't stamp there anyway, but don't attempt to, because it will damage the cylinder. I'm very partial when it comes to Best, and it's not that we do a ton of business distributing Best, because we really don't. I'm partial because when we do, and we do, their technical support is really great. They are people who behave as if they're a partner in the process, and that's really what it takes. You're going to invest heavily into a key system. You've got to have world-class support behind it, and Best delivers that on every interaction that I have with them. Any questions on their DD5 3/32 of an inch die letter stamp kit or any other Best product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you.